Today, I'd like to introduce and really dive into author Naruto's newsletter. He's proposing a truly radical new form of democracy. He starts with a really provocative question. What if our political systems aren't just broken? What if they're completely obsolete?
Oh, Naruto-san, yeah. He's that thinker who always has these unique perspectives on the future of the planet, soul growth, and what it means to live in the age of AI, right? Yes, that's the one. He's already published 10 books, and his whole argument here is that our system of governance, the one we're using right now, was basically designed for a 19th century world. You know, a world that moved at the speed of a horse and carriage. But we're living in a 21st century society that operates at the speed of the internet. He thinks that this huge gap between these two realities, that's the real root cause of all the political chaos we're seeing today.
So here's how we're going to break it all down in this explainer. First, we'll get into Naruto's core perspective. Then we'll look at the big problem he calls resolution loss. After that, we'll explore his pretty wild solution, a democracy led by AGI. And of course, we'll cover the safeguards he says are essential, and finally, how he thinks we could actually get there.
All right, let's start with part one, getting into Naruto's perspective. It's all about why our political systems are struggling so much in this information age. You know, Naruto argues that the political turmoil we see everywhere isn't just about bad politicians or divisive policies. He sees it as something much bigger, the growing pains of a massive historical transition, an old system just cracking under the pressure of a new technological age.
Okay, so the core of his whole argument is this really simple but powerful idea. For, like, centuries, power has been concentrated in the hands of a very small group of people, right? But information technology completely flips that on its head. It distributes power. And Naruto states this isn't some kind of ideological fantasy. He sees it as just a physical reality of our super-connected world. The problem is, our political structures just haven't caught up to that new reality. Okay, so that brings us to the next big question. What exactly is the problem with the system we have now? Naruto identifies this core flaw, and he gives it a name: resolution loss. Let's unpack what he means by that.
I mean, you see these symptoms every single day, don't you? Political gridlock where nothing gets done. Policies that only think about the next election cycle. And politicians who seem way more focused on getting reelected than actually governing. Naruto's big point here is that these aren't just bad apples. It's not about individual failings. He says these are the predictable outcomes of a system that's just not fit for the world we live in anymore.
And this quote from author Naruto really gets to the heart of his diagnosis. I mean, think about it. You have all these complex, nuanced views on the economy, on healthcare, on the environment, but when you go to vote, all of that gets boiled down to a single check mark next to a name. He's saying this isn't just simplifying things, it's a fundamental distortion of what people actually want.
So this is what Naruto means by resolution loss. It's this process where the rich, complex, nuanced will of millions of people gets lost when you try to compress it into just a few elected representatives or a simple yes-no vote. He uses this great analogy. It's like taking a beautiful, high-definition photograph of what everyone wants and then saving it as a tiny, super pixelated icon. All the detail, all the nuance, it's just gone. What you're left with is a crude sketch, not the real picture.
All right, so if the problem is resolution loss, what's the solution? Well, this is where Naruto's proposal gets really, really interesting and pretty radical. He suggests we use the most powerful tool we've ever created, artificial general intelligence, to build a completely new, high-resolution democracy.
So you're probably wondering, how would this even work? Well, it all starts with you. Imagine every single citizen gets a personal AI agent. You'd have daily conversations with it, and it would help you articulate your deepest values. Then, the AI figures out your core principles. And, this is super important, your personal data never leaves your device. Instead, it sends an anonymized summary of your values, what Naruto calls a value gradient, to a central AGI. This big AGI then takes in millions of these value gradients and calculates policies that would create the most well-being for everyone. Basically, you're turning governance from a messy political fight into a massive optimization problem.
The whole point here is to get way beyond the simple binary choices we have now. You know, Party A versus Party B. This whole system is designed to keep all the richness and complexity of what people think and feel, and then use AI's power to find third, fourth, or even fifth options that we, as humans, might never have even thought of. The goal is to find those optimal solutions that actually serve everybody.
Now I know what you're thinking. The idea of an AGI running government policy sounds, well, pretty terrifying. And Naruto is totally aware of the risks. He is not a blind techno-optimist. In fact, he spends a lot of time laying out the absolutely critical safeguards we'd need to prevent this from turning into some kind of sci-fi nightmare.
And here, author Naruto points out the #1 danger right away. He says, there is a danger that the developers and operators of the AI system could become the de facto rulers. I mean, that's the real risk, right? If power is shifting, we have to make absolutely sure it doesn't just end up concentrated in a new place, in the hands of an unelected, unaccountable group of AI developers.
So to stop that from happening, he proposes this multi-layered defense system. He calls it humanity's brakes. This would include things like total transparency. The AGI's code and goals have to be open for everyone to see. You'd have an independent body constantly monitoring it. A citizen-led committee would have the power to veto its decisions. And maybe, most important of all, a system reset switch, a big red button that lets us go back to our old system at any time, no questions asked. The core principle here is really clear. AI is the tool, but it's never the master. Think of it like a car. The AI can be the accelerator, the engine pushing us forward with incredible power and speed. But it's humanity, it's us who draw the map, steer the wheel, and most importantly, always hold the brakes. Okay, this all sounds like something from 100 years in the future. So how on earth could we get from here to there? Well, Naruto isn't calling for some overnight revolution. Instead, he lays out a really gradual, step-by-step path forward. And to put things in perspective, Naruto reminds us that these huge political shifts, they're never fast. It took centuries to go from feudalism to monarchy, and centuries more to get to the representative democracies we have today. He thinks we're just at the very beginning of the next big shift. It's a process that's probably going to take decades, maybe even longer.
So his whole approach is about careful, slow experimentation. The idea is not to just rip out the old system and plug in a new one. No way. Instead, you start small. You try things out at a local or city level. You use AI as a decision support tool, maybe for something like managing traffic flow. We can learn from places that are already pioneers in this, like Taiwan and Estonia. And at the same time, we have to reform our education system to build the kind of critical thinking and AI literacy skills that this new world is going to demand from all of us.
So, with all that in mind, I'd like to conclude by posing one question to everyone, and it's based on Naruto's own powerful metaphor for this new kind of partnership between humans and AI. He envisions a society where the AI handles the accelerator. It manages the insane complexity and speed of modern life. But humans, all of us, we hold the brake. We set the destination. So the question for you is, would you get in that car?